I'm sorry, Andrew Weissman, but if I recall correctly, in 2018, you were one of the people who helped write the Mueller report, and you all botched the hell out of that.
And never in my wildest dreams would I have thought we would be here. I thought we were better as a country.
Oh, yeah.
Like all these sites that have been around for creating videos and all that, like text stock videos, they're done.
But that's why Canva was one of the first to get into doing AI.
What is up, everybody? It's Dr. Vibe here, host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe Show, the home of Epic Conversations, and I'm the host of Epic Conversations 2020, Best Podcast News Award winner, 2018 Innovation Award winner given out by the Canadian Ethnic Media Association. I also co-host and co-produce the only online show in the world for dads and fathers that's sponsored by Dove Men Plus Care. I also am a content provider to a wonderful network called Indie Soup Media. And Indie Soup Media is an independent content creators network that has been up for about 4.5 months, has 15,000 YouTube subscribers, and, is powered by our good associate, Dr. Tachi, out of Fort Lauderdale, Florida. So you can catch edited versions of this conversation and other conversations that I'm part of on that platform. I forgot to also mention about the Dove Men Plus Care, the only online show that I co-host and co-produce about dads, fathers, and male caregivers. We've reached out directly and indirectly to over 400,000 dads, fathers, and male caregivers around the world. So I forgot that part. The whole situation with 45. You know, we're just in appetizer phase, but what do people have to say about this breaking story?
You know? Like I said before before we started filming was if you allow people to bring guns to your rallies, you should not be surprised if they start shooting those guns. Because I've heard that on the ground and things, these people get drunk.
Yeah.
They show up drunk and they get drunk there. So I'm not surprised that this happened. I'm sure there was probably some little beef or something between two people. And one man pulled out his gun. The other one said, I got a bigger one. And then there you go.
No comment.
I was going to ask Lala, no comment. You just say, you're not doing a thing on this one, Lala?
You know, when you preach violence, you get violence back. And I am a firm believer in the law of attraction. And this is what happens. And karma.
Okay. Well, it's a developing story. If you're watching this live, you know, there was an incident at a 45 rally in the last hour or so. So, if I see any updates, I'll certainly relay them during this live conversation. If not, go over to whatever trusted source. I say trusted.
So very few of those these days.
Trusted source to get your updates. So Minion catches. I rewinded the live feed on 45 and was upset over his comments on mental illness. Oh boy. He was making disparaging comments about mental, and that's not new for him.
It's not surprising that happened, because honestly, personally, I don't think we'll ever get a full report, but there's part of me that feels like this was not by accident. I'm just saying, what a way to start your the week of your
convention.
Your convention, right? This happens the day before the convention starts. I mean, we're talking about the same man who used to call the New York Post and the New York Times with articles about himself as someone else.
Isn't there a story called The Boy Who Cried Wolf?
The Emperor Has No Clothes. I mean, all these fairy tales compare to him, and he's always the villain. But here's my thing too, is that we're also talking about a man who for 2 weeks got only negative things from the media about Project 2025. And even then, he probably maybe got 3 or 5 minutes per show. and the rest is focused on Joe Biden on a debate that happened 2 weeks ago, and he's had other events since, and he signed other bills since. That they're focused on that, and Donald Trump doesn't take very kindly. He's not having attention for very long.
Hello, everybody. My name is Paige. I am a marketing consultant and the host of More Than a Mom, the podcast. I am here at the Soundwave Summit, and I had the pleasure of speaking with Dr. Vibe, and the gems he dropped were unmatched. An accidental conversation really changed my whole plan. And if I had him 3 years ago when I started my consulting career, it would have made a major change. The biggest thing that I learned that I'm taking with me is understanding that I do not have a show, I have a solution. And I think that's something that's not talked about enough. Another thing that really adjusted my mindset was the power of positive language. I was telling him about some of my problems are asking for help. I'm always pouring into other people, but it's hard, and it's a problem that I can't get that same thing in return. And he said, it's not a problem. It's something that, what did you say? Not a problem. You said, oh, it's a challenge. It's something that's a challenge for me. And that simple adjustment of language, I went away to lunch and I called 4 people and I'm like, hey friends, we need to change our energy. We need to change our outlook. We are solution-driven people. We do not need to do things the way society tells us to do things. This checklist that we feel like we need to fall under, this 10-minute conversation we had, it changed up everything. So I'm so thankful for the gems. I feel like I'm going to go back and make a whole new to-do list that's based on how I need to do things, a different way of looking at things, and I'm just so thankful. So thank you, Dr. Barb.
Media and Dems still discussing June debate while voters are solidly behind Biden. Ladies, it's been 2 weeks since I know Lala's discussed this on various platforms. I don't know how much Aisha has, but
A lot.
Okay, let's just go for it.
And the feedback, and look, the feedback has been good because I can tell you, I have one post where, for example, Jen Psaki, who you all should remember was the former press secretary for the White House for President Biden. She now has a show on MSNBC, and she fell into that whole trap where she's interviewing Quentin Fulks, who is running Joe Biden's campaign. And I tweeted out that, you know, it's funny to me that Jen Psaki is acting like she doesn't know when she just left that administration to get a TV show.
Yeah.
And almost, you know, a little over 900 people liked that post, and a couple hundred shared it. And that was what, last week, and it's still circulating. And that tells me that's about as many people as we see sampled in these surveys, these supposed polls that say people are, you know, that Joe Biden is, you know, not doing well. But guess what? Those are Democratic people that, you know, like my stuff. Those are people that are supporting Joe Biden that liked it. So where is this? It's kind of like one of those things where, so where are they getting these people that they're polling that are saying something totally different? Because my engagement with regular people on the ground, regular voters, through social media, through other forums, in Zoom calls with Democrats across the country, is that they might not be happy about, you know, the fact that we have these 2 old men to choose from. However, they know it's at stake, and they're solidly behind the candidate that they voted for in the primary. And that's the part that is putting a lot of people off, because it's like, wait, now you're telling me that my vote does not count. I voted for this person in the primary, and now you're telling me my vote doesn't count because you all want to have a brokered convention.
I want a do-over. I listen, let me say this first and foremost. I am voting for Biden. I know what's at stake. I know the danger that's going to happen. I'm fully aware of what's going to happen. Am I angry that we are at this point? You damn right I am. I want to do over so bad in my head. I wish I had a magic wand so I can go, ching, can we get a couple of other candidates that are just not, we're not dealing with this? because I still feel the same way that I've always said, in the fact that America couldn't come up with two better candidates than the ones that we have now. Now, I will never take away anything from Biden in the fact that I do know what he has done for our country, and he does know how to run this government. He's a career politician. He knows what it takes. He does have the respect of the world. But I also feel like, can we please get him to be so very eloquent when he, like, we see, you don't hear the ones where he's being eloquent. You only see the ones that seems like the big ones where he's just not, it seems like he's not there. Like, I have to admit, Aisha, I'm really upset about the fact that at NATO, he got names mixed up. Like, this was the world platform. However, world leaders still got behind him. And even the Ukrainian president came out and said, look, it was just a mistake. It's all right. People understand that. But see, the perception has been put out there. So not only now do we have to fight that, we have to fight the people within our own party. You see, how is this different than the MAGA fighting regular Republicans? We can't do the same thing.
Oh, yeah.
This is what I'm worried about. This is what upsets me, and this is what angers me.
But see, I get that. But I also get that you're seeing it from a different perspective, from outside, from being an American outside right now. Right now, in America, no one's listening to it. The NATO thing went over a lot of people's heads. No one paid attention to it. The cable news has reported these last 2 weeks, they've been reporting on this steady stream of Joe Biden. They've had their lowest ratings in 12 months in the last 2 weeks. Okay, so that tells you that loyal people are not tuning in. I think it was, what was it? MSNBC, their average during the daytime hours was 350,000, 500,000 people. Yeah, I think that was what it was.
Wow.
500,000 people. That's what they averaged.
Wow.
And we're talking about going from a couple million, okay? So that is a lot, and that says a lot at in terms of how people are thinking and feeling, and they're still reporting on it. The more they're reporting on it, the more they're losing people. People are seeking alternative forms from their news media. Like we like Midas Touch. People are going to Midas Touch. I suggest going to Sirius XM channel 126 Urban View. That's Black Talk Radio. I hear Black people call in all the time, sharing the same thing that you're saying, Lala. But the thing is that they also are sharing this perspective in that, here are the two choices, but the people actually spoke when it came to who these two choices were going to be. So then who do we blame for that? Because when people had a chance to speak on both the left and the right, they didn't. And they spoke with their vote, which was to kind of, for the most part, fall in line on both sides. And now they're more concerned about the fact that it seems like their own party the same party who wants to champion voting rights is also disenfranchising large swaths of the base. And the motivation behind it is really because they really are behind finding a white male to replace Joe Biden, a young white male. Also, too, this is something that I've noticed in just watching the reaction and how people are talking about it. The people who are most loudly talking about replacing Joe Biden are white men. You're not going to get white men back to the Democratic Party. And this is the game that they're playing. Let's be very clear. White men are not the majority of the base. Their voice in the base is so small. This feels like a coup within the party where these white men are trying to take back power. Because I think that they realize that after Joe Biden serves another four years, there will be a long time before you have a white man prominently on the ticket who is, of a certain age. You might have a 35-year-old if they can find one, but for the most part, you're going to look at, it's going to be someone of color, someone who doesn't identify as a heterosexual, straight Christian white male on the left. This is just what it is. Look at the ones who come out. Rob Reiner, George Clooney, Michael Moore, okay? And all of them have come out and have floated around names like Gavin Newsom. They floated around names of white men.
That will never work.
They float around names of white men I don't even know, but the name that they're not floating around is Kamala Harris. And I'm going to tell you one thing else that you need to be aware and be, you know, when we say stay woke, we mean stay woke. Because here's the thing. Even if Joe Biden decides to step down in 2 years, there's the vice president. She's right there. We have a line of succession for if the president can't do the job once elected. Right. So it's going to be okay, even if he can't get through a full year. Okay, we have a vice president who's very strong in terms of making sure these policies get implemented. But here's the scary part, particularly for white men, because the levers of power will shift dynamically in this country if that should happen and Kamala Harris does become president. Because guess who becomes vice president? If Hakeem Jeffries wins Speaker of the House, he becomes vice president. For the first time, this country will be run by a Black and Southeast Asian female president and a Black vice president male from New York. And the lever of power would have shifted. We will have, in the first time in this country, have two people of color and a woman, president and vice president. And people are really worried about that.
I want to jump in here and bring in a media report, and it's from a organization that I respect, NPR. And there was this is a transcript going from, I think, what was the name of the program? They have run an afternoon program, All Things Delivered. And there was a conversation between Mary Louise Kelly, who's one of the hosts, and Domenico Montanaro, who's their senior political correspondent. So I'm just going to read some of this. So Mary Louise Kelly says, Domenico, the conversation these last couple of weeks has been Biden, 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 Biden. How much does this result, though, reflect how people feel about 45? A lot. I think it's a good reminder. I mean, they just did a recent poll, and they said this poll clearly shows that there's still heavy antipathy toward the former president. As I've said for a while, there's probably a majority of the country that doesn't want 45 to be president, but he could still win because of third parties and those who stay home. Now, the poll found a majority said neither man should be on the ballot, but a warning sign for 45. This was really interesting. 68% said that it's more concerning to have a president who doesn't tell the truth compared to just 32 who say it's a bigger deal to have a president who's too old to do the job. I have to say that every election that we've seen since 2016 in some ways has been about 45. This one was trending that way, and the Biden campaign certainly wants to continue to make it a referendum on 45. And this latest episode with the debate that does threaten to make an election on the referendum on Biden, which, by the way, is usually for an incumbent president who's running for re-election. Then Mary Louise Kelly asked, well, a lot of people didn't like Project. You know what? I'll stay quiet on that because we're going to chat about that in a minute. But I'll just stop that for now. Anyone have anything to say about those comments?
I mean, the thing of it is that the focus, I think the idea that the focus being on Joe Biden's age and all of these other things, you got to remember, when we talked about it on our 10 and 10 that we didn't get to finish, one of the things that we talked about was how New York Times got caught making up stories, lying, flat out lying. The media that we're supposedly trusting is not reliable anymore. And it's all of it. And it's like you have to seek out other sources of information, because they've already reported that all of the people who are at the top of these outlets, top of New York Times, top of NBC, top of CNN, all these outlets are Republicans who will be at the convention this week. Okay, these are Republicans. They're basically drive the narrative. And so the narrative that they want is Biden can't do the job.
Right.
Because they want to influence voters. But here's Here's the conundrum that Democrats have now. If Donald Trump wins, it will be because Democrats do a brokered convention. Because you're worried about different blocks staying home. You disenfranchise 14 million people and tell them that their vote doesn't count by you, a small group of you deciding for those 14 million people who the nominee is going to be. That's 14 million people that might sit home. You skip over that Black woman to put anybody else in her place. The 98% of Black women that you have that will turn out to vote, you're going to see that drop drastically. And let's be very clear, Black men are also behind Biden in numbers that they're not behind Trump. So even that narrative doesn't fly. Trump got less of the Black male vote in 2020 than he got in 2016.
You know,
but nobody's reporting that.
I want to jump in here. And I know there are people who have a lot of divided opinions on this gentleman. And he's interesting. Dr. Umar Johnson was on the Breakfast Club in the last few days, but he had something interesting to say about 45. He said when 45 came into office, the Supreme Court, or he pushed the Supreme Court having the death penalty pushed through on about 10 different people, and 5 of them were black men. And he said, Black men ain't that smart. Here's a guy that's killing your own. And say, he says he doesn't understand Black men. This alleged you're going to make more money is more important than Black life. It was a very, and there's some things that Umar Johnson but it was a very.
Umar Johnson lies and steals. I'm sorry, his word has no weight with me whatsoever. I'm still waiting to hear about what he did with those donations for that supposed school for Black males.
But I thought it was.
I take his point, but I just.
Yeah, I agree. I agree, but I thought it was very interesting that, and hey, Black people can.
And he
vote.
showed up to the Breakfast Club. I'm sorry,
Right.
Any person that's speaking for Black people and shows up to the Breakfast Club, I don't. Why?
Okay.
Kermit is not interested in Black people and Black people's issues.
So Aisha, though, let me ask though, do you not think though Biden is in some trouble?
No, and I'm gonna tell you why. The media saying he's in trouble. The voters are like, can we? You know what? We knew he was old when we went and voted for him. Okay, he's been old. We knew he gaffes. Joe Biden. People are expecting Obama level eloquence out of a man who's always talked like this. Joe Biden has always talked like this. Why are people you can't? It's like expecting blood from a rock.
Okay, but you mentioned Barack Obama. There were reports this week that Barack Obama has concerns about Biden winning a re-election.
Barack Obama had concerns.
Alleged. That was alleged. That was not proven, and that was not him and Pelosi. That was alleged.
I'm gonna tell you something. What I want to know is why these little petty people keep running to the media to flood stories, but at the same time saying that they're worried about Trump winning. If you're worried, shut your mouth. Stop running to the media to stir up stories about stuff. And then here's the thing: if you are going to do it, have to put your name out there. George Clooney is a prime example. George Clooney's out here talking out both sides of his neck. George Clooney also spoke with Joe Biden this week. Okay? And apparently that was a good conversation. But now he changes his mind. Ashley Judd came out of her crypt to say that Joe Biden needs to step down. When was the last time you ever heard from Ashley Judd?
Out of her crypt. Oh, God.
So right now, again, like
man, I think you got some Kentucky blood in you tonight, girl. You got some Kentucky blood in you tonight. From the crypt. Oh my gosh.
But we're at silly season in politics right now, where you're going to see a whole bunch of people come out. Let me tell you something. Tim Ryan came out Bennett came out. Cenk Uygur came out against him. Who else? Dean Phillip. A whole bunch of other people. Guess what? All those people have in common. They all ran in a primary, either 2020 or 2024, against Joe Biden and lost. Why will I take the opinion of losers to this man as, oh, he should step down? He should step down. So what? So you can run? And here's the other part too, is that you're saying he should step down. You haven't offered a solution.
The solution is not there.
Who then, in less than 4 months, are Democrats going to rally behind and vote at least 75 million to 80 million people show up and vote for this person? Who has that kind of lame recognition? That's not Michelle Obama, because get it out of your head and respect the woman. She says she doesn't want to do it. Kamala Harris, y'all don't want her. You want a white male. So who is going to do it? Who is the one?
Yeah, the no solution thing.
Gavin Newsom is solidly behind Joe Biden. Don't say Gretchen Whitmer, because Gretchen Whitmer she said that's silly talk. I'm behind Joe Biden. So who is it going to be? That's the first thing. Second thing, how are you going to raise the money necessary in the for the next 3 months to promote this person and remind people? Remember too, we're also getting close to the fact that early voting starts very, very soon, and those ballots have to be printed up. You put a new candidate on that ballot. Republicans said they're going to sue. That's the first thing. You have to worry about that suit being tied up all the way to the election, because we saw how quickly the Supreme Court came back on immunity, right? So don't think that they're not going to come back like the 11th hour before the election with this decision. There's that part too. But then also, you're going to risk confusion. You've got older people who are set on Joe Biden. They're going to go to the look on the ballot and look for Joe Biden, and his name's not going to be there. Somebody else's name that they don't know is going to be there. Do you know what they will do? They will skip that box and keep going to the down ballot races. So what is the solution to fix all of these little hiccups that will happen if you put somebody else on the ticket? And remember, that person is not guaranteed the money raised by the Biden-Harris campaign. Only Kamala Harris is the one who gets that money grandfathered in. And there are people who are donors who are saying that if she is the person that they replace him with, they will not release those funds. So what's the solution other than the complaining?
You know what? We're going to stop for this now, because we can go on this forever. So let's move to another interesting topic. Something that these two ladies talked about a long time ago. And all of a sudden, especially the Democratic Party, especially Taraji P. Henson, talked about during the BET Awards, Project 2025. And before we get into that, I want to source back to the article I read from NPR that I read earlier, between the conversation between Mary Louise Kelly and Domenico Montanaro. Mary Louise Kelly, and this is, I think, from an interview yesterday from their All Things Considered show. Mary Louise Kelly said, indeed. Okay, one thing to ask about. This was from our poll, which I know asked about Project 2025 blueprint. This is from the Heritage Foundation. It has become associated with 45, even as he has disavowed parts of it. Do you? Why does that matter? What did our survey find? Montanaro said, well, a lot of people don't like Project 2025. There are many people who are unsure about it, but 15% have a favorable opinion. That's it. 41% have a negative opinion on it, and that's why you see 45 distancing himself so heavily from the controversial parts of this, because it's pretty unpopular. And going to the convention next week, he really wants to try to skew some of the most extreme positions. Now, the poll has also found that Democrats and independents largely do associate it with 45. And Mary Louise Kelly said, right? And Montanaro says, and for good reason. While he and his campaign didn't come up with it directly, a lot of people involved in writing it do have ties to 45. I'll stop there. Ladies, chime in.
Before we get to that, just to breaking news that Joe Biden is on right now addressing the nation about what just happened. And he's basically saying there's no room for political violence in this country. Doesn't matter what side you're on. Let's see what else.
I may be able to come back a little later tonight, but we'll put out a statement if we.
He said he's going to put out a statement a little later tonight, and he might come back later tonight once they have more information. He's trying to get more information from the Secret Service. So that's where that stands on Project 2025. Donald Trump's trying to disavow it by saying he's doing Agenda 47, but Agenda 47 is Project 2025 for idiots, people who don't read. People who don't read. It's basically a bullet point list of what he wants to do. And I said this on our part that didn't get recorded, is that's the cheat sheet for people who don't want to read the full book. So that's the thing that they want to do. The Project 2025 is their manual for how to do it. And that's why it's so long. But also, too, Donald Trump disavows it and then gets caught on camera giving a speech to the Heritage Foundation, talking specifically about Project 2025 and different tenets within it. So for him to say that he does not know anything about it, he talked about it to the Heritage Foundation. And the top 3 people who are responsible for coalescing all these stories and essays and things together work for his current campaign. So it's all bull when he says that he has no knowledge of it or anything like that. But what I can say is this. Taraji P. Henson, and here's the reason why Donald Trump is like, oh, I disavow it. Taraji P. Henson brought knowledge to it and attention to it at the BET Awards. Why is this important? Because BET is no longer owned by Black folks.
Yeah.
So BET is owned by MTV networks. Every MTV-owned network ran the BET Awards. TV Land, Pop, MTV, VH1, Logo, and the Spanish channel, one of the Spanish channels, and several other channels like, Comedy Network. All these channels that MTV owns ran the BET Awards that night. So it reached far beyond Black people. Who's watching TV Land? These are people that are pretty much older, over 50, watching these old school TV shows. Golden Girls is on TV Land all the time. Okay, so these are the people that are watching this as she's saying this. And it just so happened that after she said it, Project 2025 was the most searched phrase that week. And that is something that Trump pays attention to. He pays attention to ratings. He pays attention to rankings. And to see that it was trending that way and that people were overtly concerned about it, he had to say something. He had to say and distance himself from something. Because, remember, he still thinks that he's got to assure his people that they're not going to get swallowed up in the Project 2025 as well. Because what's been pointed out about it is that he's coming for everybody. He's coming for everybody. Everybody.
Yeah, he's made that very clear.
Yeah. And so that, I think that's, we can't express enough what Project 2025 is going to do. I mean, I look at different bits and pieces. People will ask me, well, what does it say about this? And I'll go back and I look, and I'm even more and more surprised about the different things that they want to do. Like, one of the things that they want to do is, repeal Don't Ask, Don't Tell.
Yeah.
I mean, the tenet that says, you don't have to do that anymore, that Obama got rid of. They want to put that back in place, but they also want to go through the army, the military, and remove all LGBTQ people from the military and stop the ones who are getting benefits from getting benefits. So you're talking about somebody like Pete Buttigieg. Okay.
I just want to, and I have, for those who are watching, I've put up an article about Project 2025 on the screen. I've also, on whatever platform you're watching this, most of them, I put up a link going through this story. But what I am going to do is just read through some quick parts of it. In the area of government, Project 2025 proposed that the entire federal bureaucracy, including independent agencies such as the Department of Justice, be placed under direct presidential control. A controversial idea known as, quote, unitary executive theory. In
Before
practice,
you go further with that, though, Dr. Vibe, I do want to say this because remember, I did read all those executive orders that both Trump and Biden did, and for Donald Trump to say he disavows it, he tried doing that already through executive order when he was president the first time.
so
He wrote an executive order to that end. It just never got implemented because all the people in these agencies were stopping him from doing it.
Yeah. So it says in practice, this would eliminate this. The proposals also call for eliminating job protection for thousands of government employees who could then be replaced by political appointees. The document,
and that is why, and that's why it goes back to that executive order. What he learned the first term was that he has to get rid of those people who stopped him from doing that the first time he wrote that executive order.
Okay. And the document also labeled the FBI as, quote, a bloated, arrogant, increasingly lawless organization, unquote. It calls for drastic overhauls of this and several other federal agencies, as well as the complete elimination of the Department of Education. The Republican Party platform also includes a proposal to declassify government records, root out wrongdoers, and fire corrupt employees, unquote. Pledges to slash deregulation and government spending, and also just eliminating the Department of Education, but it stopped short of providing a sweeping overhaul of federal agencies outlined. So the Republican Party is trying to push back on it. Abortion and family, it does not call for outright for the nationwide.
But that slashing of the budget really should scare people. I mean, the cutting of government spending. You know what he's saying there? He's saying that he wants to take away the power of the purse from the House of Representatives, put it under the auspices of the president, and then the president decides where your tax dollars go and to whom and to what projects, which means that he is going to pull money from blue states who will be getting no funds for the things that they need to run, which means your upkeep of your highways. It means for federal grants to your schools and things like that for improvements. None of that money will go to blue states. He'll give it to the red states. So you will be living in your blue state, working hard, paying higher taxes than some people in red states do because you're paying for the things that they want. The closing of the Department of Education. I said this last year. What was the ultimate goal of Moms for Liberty, starting with Florida? I told everybody, watch what they're doing in Florida because they're going to try and do it for the rest of the country. It was to privatize schools. If they close the Department of Education, a lot of Title I schools, those are poor schools, mostly in poor communities, mostly in Black and brown communities, will not have the funding to educate those kids, and they'll have to close.
All right, I'm going to quickly cover two more areas quickly. Abortion and family. Project 25 does not call for the outright nationwide a nationwide abortion ban. However, it proposes withdrawing the abortion pill. I can't pronounce this. Mifepristone. Thank you, mifepristone from the market, and using existing but little enforced laws to stop the drug from being sent through the post. The document suggests
they're already doing. Just so you know, they're already trying to do that in Colorado.
Yes, mm-hmm. The document suggests that the Department of Health and Human Services should maintain a biblically based social science reinforced definition of marriage and family, unquote. On this issue, at least, the document differs fairly substantially from the Republican platform, which only mentions the word, quote, abortion only once, which is interesting because the Republican platform is very small and leaves out a lot of things. The platform says abortion law should be left.
But this should unnerve people on the issue of abortion.
I don't know why it's not unnerving
family. They snuck in marriage in abortion and family. They snuck in marriage, which basically means that they can decide who can and cannot get married. Even two straight people if they don't like the fact that two people of different races or different religions are getting married. They're making the federal government make those determinations and definitions for people based on religion. Well, we have freedom of religion, right? Because guess what? Marriage in this country is a legal binding agreement. They're trying to shift that from being a legally binding agreement to something that is only binding legally if it is biblically enforced.
No, y'all, period. No, this is a sneaky tactic, although it's out in the open. The problem is people want to not read it for themselves and understand it. What they want is Cliff Notes. This document is so very important that Cliff Notes are not acceptable. Stop listening to what you see on the news. Stop listening to what you see on TikTok and Instagram. What you need to do is to download the document yourself and read it and get your understanding for yourself. This is not something that you can depend on others for. You need to understand what it says in your own terms with your own eyes. And matter of fact, I'm pretty sure somebody's probably got it on an audio book for you right now. And if I have to get on here and read it for 900 pages, I will do so. But you cannot just assume and guess what this says and let people sway you that way. You need to understand what it says for yourself and see the clear and present danger that this is happening, and they've already started to put into place. You don't understand.
They've made it very easy for you too, because they've indexed it. If you get the digital version, their list of chapters, you can go through, see what interests you, click on it, it'll take you right to that section. They made it easy. They made it easy for their people to get to and read. But guess what? It's also easy for our people to get to and read, and you need to go and do that.
Listen, y'all, we literally, this Project 2025 is stripping you of absolutely every right that you have as a citizen of the United States of America. If you do not follow what they want you to do, we are clearly following the same blueprint that Hitler has put out. I kid you not. I literally sat down and watched and read a lot of that, and it's the same language. And then I watched the documentary, and it's a wonderful documentary on Netflix about Hitler's rise and fall. And if you go back to the very, very beginning, you will see how he started to rise very slowly, but he started talking to the people the way that they wanted to hear, and people who were proud of their country. And so therefore, this is how this all started from the very beginning. So the playbook that he gave, which is on Donald Trump's nightstand, according to the ones he loves, is the exact same book that they're playing from with this. They've been planning this for many, many years and just waiting for the right alignment to come. And so now the right alignment is here. So this is not fluff. This is not a scare tactic that we're doing for you. I need you to be very clear on that. This is what is happening now. And if you don't like what's happening now, then you need to really understand that this is just the tip of the iceberg.
45 and Espin testimony. Lala, you wanted to talk about this one.
Yes, because no one else is. And I'm really angry about this. You really shouldn't have to go to other places to get the news and the documents that you need. The mainstream media needs to be talking about this. And there is videotaped testimony from this lady who was 13, 14 years old at the time, giving her statement and why she gave her statement and how she lives in such horror of the fact that she thought that Donald Trump was going to be president, and it was all suppressed before he won that presidency. So I'm going to need y'all to understand that you need to start looking for yourself again, because this is being hidden. But you need to look up the Epstein-Trump documents as well as the testimony. I'm telling you, you will be horrified and disgusted, and you'll be angry at why this is not in the mainstream media. But I'm very proud of this congressman right now, because he stood up and he literally said this out loud with his whole chest. on why you should be paying attention to what's going on in Trump. He did not flinch. He said it with all of his whole heart and tried to get it in the media. It wasn't covered like it should have been covered. Now,
But
you're going to have to literally go.
instead they got him confused. Instead, the New York Times got him confused with someone else saying that he said Joe Biden should step down. It wasn't him. It was another Asian person.
Yeah.
That was the story. That was the story that they ran concerning Ted Lieu instead of this.
Exactly. So there's a reason they're hiding all of this stuff. I'm sorry, but I've believed it from day one. I've always believed it. I've always believed the rape cases and all this stuff, because you don't have this many people coming forward and saying that these ladies are convicted and telling you what happened to them. And these people are always talking about they want to protect children, but they're also the main predators. So I have an issue with the fact that the media is not reporting this. And I think it's important for us to discuss this here on this platform, because if one person, just one person, finds out and goes and reads about this, then we've done our job. They really need to go and really see what the horrific things that are done by rich people who think they could get away with everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Anyone want to add in regards to this one?
No, I agree. You've got to, it's something that you've got to read for yourself, because we're talking about, and we're not just talking about 18, 19-year-olds. We're talking about 12 and 13-year-olds, okay? And the horrific things that happen to them, basically being sexually trafficked by Epstein, and Trump being among the recipients of those sexual favors.
Yeah, Regina said he said how 45 knew Epstein preferred young girls if he wasn't involved. Wow.
Yeah, he lets his own tongue slip, but the problem is, y'all know, all the MAGA love everything he say. All the MAGA loves absolutely everything. He came out and said, grab him in the pee. He came out and said, he actually has said some pretty gross things about his daughter. I mean, that really should grate you. Those are alarm bells in the first place. But if you read and you listen to this testimony, you will see why what I just said is so disgusting.
Okay. We're going to close it off because this is an all political conversation like it is most of the time. But I didn't know anything about this person until, of course, the ladies bring this gentleman up. Byron Donalds.
Oh.
Okay.
I'm gonna let Aisha handle this one.
Okay, so his ex-wife, Black woman, gave an interview with the Florida Trident, I believe it was. Her name is Bisa Hall, Bisa Hall, and she used to be married to Byron Donald. The same Byron Donald who said that the Black family was more together under Jim Crow. That's his ex-wife, okay? So much for the Black family staying intact, right? So Byron Donald and Bisa met when they were students at FAMU. I didn't know that Byron Donald went to an HBCU, but apparently he did. So when they first met, he is of Jamaican descent. His mother is Jamaican. However, he was not born in Jamaica. He was born in New York. So when he met her, he pretended to have a Jamaican accent because he wanted to stand out. And then the next time he saw her, he didn't have the accent. Okay. So she basically, this article says that he's dangerous. She's in that he's an opportunist. She mentions how he used to work at Cracker Barrel. He used to work at a whole bunch of other things. He used to work at the FAMU bookstore, which he stole from. He had been arrested on possession charges with intent to distribute. And then his current wife, he got pregnant while he was married to the Black woman.
Ouch.
Went to the Black woman and, he had already been cheating on her, then decided he didn't want to do that. And he went back to her and said he wants his family back, meaning just her, because they didn't have any kids, and that he wants his marriage to stay intact. The woman finds out she's pregnant, tells Byron, and then all of a sudden Byron's like, okay, changes course, but asks Bisa to pay for the divorce. And that once he set and everything is situated, he will pay her back. She said it's been 20 years. He has not paid her back a dime yet, and he makes $176,000 in Congress. So he did, and then he did get married to a woman whose family has money, but also are staunchly in the Republican Party and are also active in the party. And so she said that Byron had been very, very liberal while they were in college and throughout their whole marriage. And he switched parties because he saw an opportunity to run for office through his family, his new family money through his wife. And that,
all right.
that he will say and do anything for the benefit of just being popular and making money, even though he doesn't believe any of it.
A come up. So JG Mars says Byron is just another disgrace. Mignon Cam says my parents are Jamaican. My parents are Jamaican. The accent only comes out when I'm angry. Otherwise, it's Canadian. So yeah, where did this guy come from? Like all of a sudden, and isn't it rumored that he's actually being considered by 45 as a vice presidential candidate?
Well, that's what they say, but come on.
Oh, it's bull.
You can't. No. See, no. Trump's not going to have another criminal on the ticket.
Ouch.
He's the big criminal in charge, okay?
Ouch.
So Byron Donald is not going to be on that ticket. Byron Donald claims that he became, that he was inspired by Christian nationalism when he was working in Cracker Barrel and saw these 12 women who were evangelicals. His wife said that was a surprise to her to hear that, because when he was working at Cracker Barrel, they were married, and she said he had no religious convergence. He was not religious at all, as a matter of fact. She said he was a straight up heathen.
Oh, JG Mars says Byron's personal history mirrors that of Clarence Thomas.
Sure does. And here's the other thing.
Ooh.
Last I heard Byron Donald's last job was at Cracker Barrel. What was he doing between Cracker Barrel and Congress? He went from Cracker Barrel, like Tim Scott went from Cotton to Congress. This fool went from Cracker Barrel to Congress.
I know you're almost wanting to say another thing instead of Cracker Barrel, but I'm gonna let it be. Well,
no, because he worked at Cracker Barrel, but you know.
No. Lala, I didn't know you have a new adopted resident of your home state this evening.
Welcome to Kentucky. Welcome to Kentucky.
No, this is all New Haven. We don't play.
All right. I think on that note, we're gonna, as I say, shut it down.
I'm just saying, read the article, because I was reading it and I was clocking all the tea, and I just was cracking up because I'm like, this dude is a clown.
She told it all. She told it all.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing. When you go to the circus, you should expect to see a clown or two.
Yeah.
And right now, the Republican Party is a circus.
Cue the clown music.
Oh my goodness. That's hilarious. That's hilarious. And you know what I'm gonna do? I'm actually, while we're on live here, in the comment section, I'm actually gonna put a link to the article for the family to read. So let me do that quickly before we shut it down. I'm going to put a link to the article about Byron. She don't hold back, family. She does not hold back. Like, if he
the only thing she didn't go into were certain things about their marriage, but about him and the kind of person he is, she told it all.
Yeah. So for those watching on Facebook,
and she said she had to come out because this was just the stuff with Trump was too much. But she only wanted to give so much, and I you can't blame her, because she will become a target of MAGA, and she wants to maintain her safety. And as we see, she's right to want to maintain her safety.
All right. Before we let everyone say au revoir, Lala, how do we get in touch with you when you're not, when you're on, when you're everywhere? There we go. Lala is
I
everywhere.
made it
That's the
real
new.
easy.
That's the
I
new name of the
made it
show.
real
Lala is everywhere.
I am everywhere. So that's why I made it very easy for you to find where those everywheres are. You could just hit me up at bit.ly/Laura Key Info. You'll find all my platforms there.
100%. And Aisha K.
Yep, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram.
Uh, yes, and now you can't. Okay, and you can't find our show on Twitter anymore, but we'll put the
No,
link up on our Twitter feed of
sure
the.
will.
All right, all right, that is it. So for today, that's a wrap. So I'd like to say thank you for watching the conversation, whether it's live or on replay or listening it on the replay. If you want to get a hold of me, here we go. The website, the drvibeshow.com, Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn, The Dr. Vibe Show, the space, DR period space, VIBE space, SHOW, Instagram, The Dr. Vibe Show, X/Twitter, DRVIBESHOW, and email DR period VIBE at the DRVIBESHOW.com. So before we shut it down, last thing, let's do some things. Let's do it here. You can watch replays of this epic conversation on the Dr. Vibe Show on YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn. The Dr. Vibe Show website also. And I will say again, please, if you haven't and you feel up to it, subscribe on YouTube. We've hit 1,500. Let's hit 1,600. Let's make it happen. Finally, Primetime Saturday store. There's the link. Primetime, when they record full shows, by the way, at Patreon. That's the link. And join the Discord group. Email me dr period VIBE at the drvibeshow.com. Subscribe to the Dr. Vibe Show again on YouTube. Hit the notification button. Also, like the Dr. Vibe Show on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram. And finally, to advertise your business, product, or service on any of the platforms that I'm part of, dr period VIBE, excuse me, at the drvibeshow.com. As always, live your life as a dream. If you can dream it, you can make it. Sometimes you have to get small to get stronger. Block assumptions, then aim bigger, aim better, aim higher, aim wider. Love, faith, and respect. Remember, don't just manage your time, manage your energy, and remember to give yourselves grace. And thank you, everyone. We'll see you next time, but follow us wherever we are. Especially, well, Lala's everywhere. We're just trying to catch up to Lala. Bye.